here today at the European Parliament. We're meeting with Brian Simpson, MEP, and we're asking Brian what things he thinks must change in order to deliver a more seamless and more comfortable rail experience, whether that's booking a ticket or actually travelling on the train itself. We look forward to hearing what Brian has to say, and we'll share with you the results a bit later.
Hi, I'm Brian Simpson, Member of the European Parliament from the northwest of England, and I'm Chairman of the European Parliament's Transport and Tourism Committee. And one of my roles in that job is to reflect the views of the members of the European Parliament on various transport issues, not only to the Commission and Council but to the public at large. So it's a very wide job indeed. It's a very time-consuming job, but nevertheless somebody's got to do it.
To what extent do you think the passenger is feeling the positive impact of deregulation yet?
I'm not sure the passenger is feeling the positive impact of deregulation. I think it very much depends on where you are and in which member state you are. There's clearly been some progress made in some countries and there's been no progress made in others. But I think one thing that the passenger is always looking for is reliability, affordability and of course a safe system. Now I'm pretty sure we have a safe system, but I think the reliability on the rail network and certainly in my home country the affordability are issues that passengers are concerned with. I think also one of the failings in some respects of the railway industry and indeed transport as a whole is this failure to communicate with passengers when things go wrong, when information needs to be imparted to them. For some reason, here we are in the second decade of the 21st century, and we still have failures to communicate with our passengers. So I think they're the challenges that railways face.
And how do you think rail companies, rail providers will need to diversify their offering, their proposition to the traveller? Do you think there'll be an increase in demand from air, from short haul air? How do you see that evolving?
I think there will always be competition from aviation, but also competition from road transport, particularly coaches and intercity coaches. And of course the main competition of all is from the private car. So the competition will always be there for the railways. Now the railways are in a good position in certain areas and for certain distances to be the major form of transportation. But what has to be delivered on is this reliability, is this comfort, is this value for money affordability that people are looking for. It really isn't good enough to ask somebody to pay a lot of money for a ticket to stand up from London to Warrington, for example. You know, really we should be guaranteeing seats and having the rolling stock available to meet the demand. And the problem I think that railways have at the moment is that demand is being stifled because we are not providing the investment in infrastructure and in particular in rolling stock to meet that demand.
Shopping for and booking rail, and in particular I think international rail, has always been notoriously complex. I think certainly for travel sellers and for travellers. Do you think that TAP TSI will succeed where other initiatives have failed in achieving this kind of standardisation that we've been looking for in terms of booking rail?
My immediate answer was I hope it does succeed, because at the moment we do have this problem of booking rail tickets that take journeys across borders. Look, if I fly from Manchester to wherever in Europe, I get one ticket. I can't for the life of me understand why with railways we can't have a similar system, and to have varying tickets for varying bits of the journey in 2012 is total nonsense, and it needs sorting out. If I want to go from Manchester to Milan by train, I want one ticket at one price, and I think it's also ridiculous that those who are trying to book it for me have to jump through hoops and goodness knows what to get that single ticket done. So it's a priority, I think, that the railways need to address.
And what are those hoops and those hurdles? I know there's probably a long list, but if you were to pick one or two that are particularly challenging, the kind of barriers, what would you see those as being?
Well, there's one barrier. It's called a national border. As soon as you hit a national border in railway terms, everything grinds to a halt. And it's the bureaucracy and it's the paperwork involved in that, and it's the attitude that we've always done it this way. So what we need to do is to take those barriers down, take down the bureaucratic barriers, the old rules and regulations, and just move on in getting the railways and railway ticketing into the 21st century, not barely out of the 20th.
Okay, and to what extent do you think it's fair or otherwise to argue that European policy is focused too far on technical issues of interoperability at the expense of customer-centric commercial benefits?
I think it's about a balance. If we're to deliver interoperability in the rail network, and if we're to deliver the solution to the problem I've alluded to of national borders and the very much nationalistic policy framework that railways work in, then we've got to address the problem of technical specifications. We've got to end the nonsense of it taking years to get a locomotive approved in all member states at some exorbitant cost. You know, we need European standards, European technical standards. We need mutual recognition so that we can move it on. Otherwise, we're just stagnating. We're just going to be 25 national railway networks rather than looking at it on a European perspective. But we also have to deliver in regards to what we deliver for our customers, be it freight operators or be it passengers, because we need to retain them, we need them to come back, we need their income to keep the railways going, and if you treat them shoddily, they won't do that. Now, a lot of railways don't do that, but there are some railways out there who sadly do. So it's a balance of priorities. We need the technical harmonisation to move the railways forward on a pan-European project with European added value, but we also cannot forget, at the end of the day, customer care and what we're providing for our passengers.
Long distance and cross-border rail, what do we think will drive those? Where will those passengers come from, if you like, in the future?
There's an obvious one, those who don't like flying, and also the fact that the airport experience now is not a good one. Passengers are hassled at airports. That's not the airport's fault, that's governments and regulations regarding security. So where the airport experience used to be a nice experience, it's now become a trauma. And I think railways need to work on that to say, look, there is an alternative. You've only got to look at the light of the success of Eurostar in regards to the number of passengers it's taking now. You've only got to look at, in my own area, from Manchester down to London, when the railway was sorted out and when the railway was modernised, it killed off virtually the internal flights from Manchester to London. There's only one airline now doing that. Same happened in France with the TGV. So that's where the people are going to come from. They're going to come from other modes of transport. But crucially as well, if you're sat on the M6 motorway for 3 hours twiddling your thumbs in a traffic jam, there is also, therefore, an added incentive to look to other forms of transport. But if you're going to be sat on a train that's not got enough seats for you, or you've got to stand on that train, or the toilet's never been emptied, then you might as well sit in your car. So in that sense, the railways have got to make sure the product works. And that's why I used what I said earlier about we need more rolling stock in order to fill the growth spurt that we're going to get from passengers wanting to use rail. It amazes me, and just shows you how popular rail is, that people stay loyal to rail when really rail has no right to have that loyalty. And it's that question I pose to the railways. Do they take that loyalty? Are you taking that loyalty for granted? Because if you are, you're going to come unstuck. So we're now going to have a panel discussion on ticketing, and that springs to mind for me some of the examples that we've had and some of the nightmares we've had in regards to trying to get Europe-wide ticketing introduced in my own country of the UK. First and foremost, of course, in the UK, everything starts from London. No other town exists except London. So trying to get a ticket, an international ticket, at Wigan North Western or Warrington Banquet, you are met with a blank look from the guy there because he can't do it. You're sent down to the international division somewhere in Euston, or you have to go through one of the ticketing agencies who can do it for you. The point I'd make, guys, is if you're really serious about ticketing, about through ticketing, you have to be able to adapt to what the customer needs are, and the customer needs will not just emanate from the capital city. The customer needs will emanate from other areas of the country as well. And I think it's that you need to be able to look at. It's back to what I said earlier. Get me a ticket from Manchester to Milan. Why is that so impossible to deliver on?